Family is important, and I don't mean family as in related by blood. I mean the people that a person chooses to fill their life with. Whether that is only one puppy, or one cat, or 10 different people, family is humanity's backbone. It's a powerful thing when you love someone so much that you would sacrifice everything for them. And also when those people would do the same for you. Arcane's Vi demonstrates all the values that one would think on surface level are necessary for a strong family unit. But that's just it. Vi is strong. Everything about her surpasses those who depend on her. Vi is strong because she has been taught that the actions and failures of others are her responsibility. Vi needs to be strong in order to carry the weight of her family, when a family is supposed to be there to carry each other. And if Vi is so determined to carry everyone, then who is left to carry her? Hello, I am Liddy, and welcome to Shaped by Stories, where we discuss how and why our favorite stories shape our own. Let's get into it. Vi's first scene is her dragging herself through hell, forced to witness the horrors of war while protecting and soothing her little sister as they search the eerily quiet battlefield for their parents. She faces the hard reality of the world, so her sister doesn't have to, but she has to remain composed and put together for Powder's sake. Powder is just as sensitive as her namesake. Vi has to force herself to be bold, to look Vander in the eye, to demand what she needs to know, only cracking when she sees her parents' bodies. Powder sees her big sister, who she knows as her protector, weeping, and so Powder hugs her. She is sad with her. Powder, in just the way that she holds her sister, and in how she doesn't quite seem to grasp the situation at her very young age, is such an important mark of innocence. Innocence in the Undercity is non-existent. Kids are forced to grow up ridiculously fast in order to survive. When your reality is one of poverty and violence and squalor, there can be no illusions. This is directly contrasted with the children of Piltover, like Caitlyn. She got to have that age of innocence. She got to have a childhood. Vi, being the older sister, likely didn't have the same protection that she offers to Powder. Vi's parents were likely working to survive, or potentially even got caught up in Vander's rebellion. But the fact that we can witness Powder's innocent nature implies that Vi worked really hard to give her sister that age of innocence. Vi is basically, in my opinion, a very good example of a parentified child. In a way, protecting Powder was Vi protecting that remaining childlike part of herself too. Vi admits to Caitlyn later on in the story that she once promised Powder that she would never let the monsters hurt her. Vi has spent so long carrying so many burdens, and with the death of her parents, there was genuinely nobody left to pick her up. I honestly believe that Vander is the first person to really pick up that weight that Vi has been shouldering, someone who offers her the love and strength and protection that she has long provided for Powder. The violet is a very strong flower, and it is resistant to herbicides, for instance. But as strong as a violet actually is, it is not invincible. Vander becomes that necessary shield for Vi as she continues to operate as Powder's shield. The last thing I want to note about the introduction of Arcane is the imagery of all those stone faces on the bridge that almost glare down on the people of the Undercity. The shots we see of enforcers, their faces hidden almost as if to erase accountability, execute unarmed and likely fleeing Undercity civilians as they lie on the blood-stained stone. Vi's hatred for this dehumanization and this disrespect is solidified here. You can see it in her eyes when she looks at the clear skies above the heights of Piltover. This nightmare on the bridge is all she knows of the world above them. The world that prevents the people of Zaun from living a better life. Vi is a leader, and she exudes an awareness of that role from a young age. Her movements are strong, confident, and inspiring. Despite her capabilities, she never leaves anyone behind, and she always makes a point to include even the weakest member of her family, Powder. No matter how much she may hold Vi, Clagor, and Milo, her new brothers, back. After the time skip following the introduction, we still see that Powder depends on Vi. Powder, I believe, with her mental illness, has always danced very close to the void, so to speak. We see this when Powder stands, divided from her siblings, staring down into that void when they're jumping across the rooftops. It's only when Vi reassures her and encourages her and makes her feel safe that Powder is able to look ahead instead of into that darkness. Even after Powder screws up their mission in raiding Jace's lab, Vi still refuses to be mad at her. Vi always nurtures Powder's sense of wonder, as well as her differences, and will always stand in the way of any criticism of her little sister, even when that criticism is perfectly valid. I think this is Vi's way of trying to protect her sister's innocence and her fragile self-confidence. Although Vi's intentions are good, I think this actually leads to the damage that Powder suffers later on. Powder doesn't really have the ability to healthily self-reflect. Vi protects Powder from monsters just like she promised, but Vi's biggest mistake was identifying reality as one of those monsters. Because, of course, what will happen if Powder is ever forced to fend for herself? One of the most important scenes in Arcane, I think, that happens to explain Vi's determination to maintain her sister's innocence is best represented by Vi's stuffed bunny. While sitting on the rooftops and trying to cheer Powder up, Vi tells her that that bunny used to be Vi's favorite toy, until someone threw it up in the air and it got stuck on some wire. Vi waited for someone or something to knock it down, but to this day, that bunny is still stuck. To me, this bunny is an important symbol of innocence. Nobody was there to help Vi get her age of innocence back. She was forced to abandon childish things far too early in her life. Even under Vander's wing, she is still forced to handle far more responsibility due to the squalor of the Undercity. While Vi was already dedicated to Powder's protection, Vander equipped Vi with the tools she would need to do that. Vi learned to fight from Vander, and I'm willing to bet she learned a lot of the tricks that we see her later using in the Undercity from him as well. Vi tries to emulate the Hound of the Underground, even in self-destructive ways. Vi's desire for strength comes from her perspective of not only needing to survive, but to provide for others. While I believe she led that mission to raid Jace's lab because she believed she and her siblings could do something good for their family, I think Vi also feels like she needs to prove to herself and to others that she is strong enough, period. Because if Vi is not strong, in her mind, she's a failure. She's still a child. Her pulling her hood up in Zaun to hide her face says a lot, both about the self-doubt she wrestles with in this brutal world, but also I think it shows that not even Vander's kids are safe from the people of Zaun. Fatherhood genuinely changed Vander, especially considering his kids were taken under his wing after their parents were lost in the rebellion that he led. Vander's cross to bear is the loss of these people who believed in him, as well as the innocence left behind. Vander once fought to destroy what he hated, but after seeing Vi's tear-filled eyes and the reality that they reflected, he began to instead protect what he loved. Vi grew up surrounded by the inspiring stories of Vander's more rebellious youth. The stories of his freedom fighter days inspired her in her quest for freedom from Piltover's tyranny. But the stories of the old Vander would inevitably clash with the lessons that this new, calmer, more measured Vander would try to impart upon his eldest daughter, essentially. One of Vander's most important lines to Vi, to paraphrase, is that she is a leader. People follow her, especially her siblings and even Echo. When things go south on her watch, it is her fault. And while I think this comes from Vander trying to impart to Vi caution about where she directs her power, a thing that he himself learned in one of the worst possible ways, this, if we really look at it, puts a lot of onus on a child. And while yes, understanding responsibility is a very important lesson that everybody needs to learn, but Vi is a kid and she is going to make mistakes. This moment almost sort of implies that Vi is not allowed to be imperfect. I definitely don't think that was Vander's intention. It's not Vander's fault that Zaun is a place where children, unfortunately, have to think beyond their years. But that being reality doesn't just make it right. A child is a child. Vi may be mature in many ways, but she still has the doubts and insecurities and needs of a 13-year-old. It's a crappy mixture she has to deal with. It's no wonder why she protects Powder like she does. The worst part here is that Vi, although she desperately wants to keep her siblings safe, especially Powder, ended up putting them all in danger by leading them out of the frying pan and into the fire. You know she feels dumb, and she probably feels like she failed them, especially after this discussion. Like father, like daughter. Because Vander is also blinded and deeply affected by his own regrets. He doesn't want Vi to repeat his mistakes, but by putting his own guilt, his own sense of responsibility onto Vi, this plants the seeds of her self-destructive tendency to blame herself when other people do wrong. While Vander means well when he asks Vi to really consider what she'd be willing to sacrifice should she walk the path of violence, this sours when placed next to Vander's words about Vi's level of responsibility. Because Vi led the mission that led to Powder blowing up the lab, she blames herself for the enforcers who are now cracking down on the people of Zaun. She has to give herself up to protect the people she loves. People like Powder, who she is not willing to sacrifice. This is why Vi goes to turn herself into the enforcers. Vander, of course, sees that bunny that Vi left with Powder, and knows that Vi has done the last thing he ever wanted her to do. It's Vi's parting gift of innocence to her little sister, but also almost like a last cry of help from the child that Vi is, for someone to save her. And when Vander's attempt to give himself up in her place goes badly and he gets kidnapped by Silco, Vi blames herself for creating this situation. Vander even tells her before his kidnapping here to protect the family. But to Vi, Vander is family, and she is responsible for her family. And so she will protect him too. Vi telling Powder to stay behind right before this disastrous job is one of the most relevant moments in Arcane. For Vi, leaving Powder at home when she and her brothers go to rescue Vander is twofold. For one thing, Vi knows that she won't be able to keep as close a watch on Powder, and she can't risk losing her. But I also think Vi, in telling Powder that she is not ready, is Vi's own sort of admission that she herself doesn't feel ready. Vi is fighting to keep her strength up here as she faces one of the scariest moments of her life. But she doesn't feel like she can shield Vander and Powder at the same time. But with Vi leaving her completely alone, and likely for the first time in such a stressful situation, Powder can't help but feel all of those monsters closing in. Powder has never had to operate without Vi to shield her, and she falls apart. As soon as she recalls her sister's reassurances and promises, she has that jolt of self-confidence, that mad genius, as potent and destructive as those blue crystals she stole. While I see the flare that Vi gives Powder here as a symbol of her promise to always be there to protect Powder, rather than immediately firing off that flare out of just nerves, Powder begins to mantle what I think is a corrupt child's viewpoint of Vi. Jinx is of course far removed from the Vi that we know, but she was made from Powder's desperation for the safety her sister provided. But when Powder, at this first mantling of Jinx, actually succeeds in her experiment, this ruins everything. For once, Powder was able to work through great stress and fear to create something that would help her family, but instead it kills Milo and Clagor, and nearly Vi and Vander. When Vi and Powder meet again over the body of their father figure, Vi, for presumably the first time, unleashes her rage and grief on Powder. She calls her a jinx and says all the nasty things that Milo had said about her were right, and strikes her. Vi goes against everything she's ever told her sister in that moment, and she blames her for all this death. But Vi, after having just mantled the path of violence, literally having wielded Vander's gauntlets, sees the blood on her sister's face. She sees the blood on her knuckles from the fight that she'd just been in, and she remembers Vander's words about what she's willing to lose should she choose that path. She sees the fear in her sister's eyes, for once not directed at the monsters, but at her protector. Vi walks away here, but she doesn't walk away to abandon Powder. What Vi does here is remove herself from the situation to actually give herself a moment. Vi needs a minute to recuperate and regather her feelings so she can properly protect Powder. Because Vander's last words to Vi were to take care of Powder. Vi feels like she's already failed here. She's failed protecting the family. She's failed to properly recognize the power she wields as a leader. She's failed to even protect Powder from herself. And of course, none of that is fair. Vi is a child and she is traumatized and grieving. When Vi sees Silco standing over Powder, she again feels like she's failed, especially as Marcus chloroforms her and drags her away before she can reach her sister. Powder now believes, from this point on, that Vi genuinely abandoned her, that Vi deemed her unworthy of love, essentially. I honestly believe that this last impression of Vi, warped by the mind of the traumatized child that Powder is the core of Jinx's personality. Jinx is an ugly mirror of Vi, used by the little girl still inside to enable her big sister to continue to protect her. That spinning shot at the end of episode 3 is the last Vi sees of Powder, an ember dying as she is dragged into darkness. But it is an ember that keeps her alive. For Powder, the past is a prison, but for Vi, it is the last place of safety. In Stillwater prison, Vi undergoes years of abuse and trauma. Just as Heimerdinger says of Jace's imprisonment, prison only imprisons the body, not the mind, and Vi would keep herself sane by remembering the people that she loved. Vi engraves herself with her sister's memory in her tattoos. To me, the cloudy shapes in Vi's tattoos are the flare that Vi gave Powder. Similar to Jinx's tattoos, they both still remember that promise. When Vi finally gets out of prison, she draws great strength in seeking to fulfill that promise. Vi enters the Undercity with her head held high, fueled by the promise of her past in easing her own guilt. Nothing else matters to her. This is the core of her self-worth. Vi feels like garbage for her perceived failure in protecting her sister, and she's been nursing that sense of feeling like she's not enough for so long. It is a horrible thing when you really think about it. Vi's whole life has been her being held responsible for things that 9 times out of 10 are far beyond her control anyway. Caitlyn is the first thing in Vi's life, however, to yank her out of the past. She is the first person since Vander to carry Vi. Vi is not used to kindness, and she is not used to justice whatsoever. Her whole opinion of enforcers is shaped by their example at their worst, while Caitlyn represents their best. Caitlyn and Vi are indeed oil and water. They grew up in completely opposite situations. Caitlyn had the luxury of wealth and nobility. She's quite shocked by what she sees in the Undercity, but Caitlyn never falters. She doesn't let Vi scare her off or shy away from the worst parts of the Undercity. Caitlyn saves Vi after she ditches her in the brothel. Reminiscent of Arcane's opening scene, Caitlyn is on a bridge, an enforcer in the gloom aiming at a Zonite, but doing so to save Vi's life. Not only that, but to save Vi, Caitlyn trades in her gun. She steps off the path of violence to get the medicine to save her. She listens to Vi, she forgives and empathizes with Vi, and she comforts her as well. For once, Vi doesn't have to handle things alone, and she has somebody to look after her. Piltover may be known as the City of Progress in name, but it is anything but. Caitlyn truly wants progress, especially after seeing the harsh reality and injustices of Zon for herself. Caitlyn's investigative nature forces her to face all the facts as they are, to see the bigger picture, something that Vi struggles with. The fact that Caitlyn never leaves Vi and stays with her through thick and thin proved her sincerity, and Vi actually grows to trust Caitlyn. Even though she doesn't have a baseline for all the traumas and hardships of Vi's world, Caitlyn pushes herself to learn. Vi defending Caitlyn's sincerity to Echo, especially in such a hopeful setting, points towards Vi beginning to hope. As much as Vi is still stuck in the past and using it to cope, Caitlyn inspires her to move forward. Vi begins to heal. Caitlyn is the water of the oil and water duo because she is pure. When Vi is first reunited with Powder, after she lights that flare, you can see for a bit how Jinx's face softens. A bit of Powder emerges as Vi, like she promised, found her again. She's there to protect her from the monsters, and Powder kind of feels safe for a split second. Despite Powder being unstable, especially when Caitlyn comes into the picture, Vi, at this point, is in denial that her sister is a lost cause. This meeting was the one thing keeping Vi going in prison, and it's been the only thing stopping her from going back into the prison of her own mind. For Vi to accept that Powder is gone would be yet another thing she would blame herself for. But later on, when they meet again on the bridge, after Jinx attacks Caitlyn, aka Vi's better future, Vi is able to go forward with Caitlyn instead of backwards with Jinx. The fact that Echo, with his strong association with time, is the one protecting Vi and Caitlyn as they escape to safety from Jinx says a lot about where these two are headed. After this scene, there is a shot where you can see half of Vi's face is behind bars and half of it is free. And again, it's like, I think this is Vi being split in half between her sister in the past and Caitlyn in the future. But I think it's also that Vi is still in prison in her mind, even if her body is free. After this, Caitlyn is the first person to tell Vi that none of what's happened with her sister and everything in Zon was her fault. She's the only person who absolves her of responsibility, rather than further burdening her with it. Caitlyn challenges Vi's insecurities, and she's there to offer care and tenderness. And it's all the more tragic when Vi, after the council continues to disregard the people of Zaun, feels unworthy of a bright future. She feels stupid for believing that it could ever be anything but dismal. It's why she leaves Caitlyn. She's lost everything, including self-respect, and she's hollow. Vi's reason for staying alive, protecting her sister and getting her back, is all for nothing, and she blames herself for how everything went wrong. Vi lashes out and seeks the path of violence yet again. She has no one left to lose at this point. Vi has been forced to bottle up her emotions for her entire life. This is the only way she knows how to operate, and when she fights Savika in the last drop, this is almost like a suicide mission / revenge quest. And it's very fitting that it takes place in her childhood home, as she is still haunted by the memories of this place, even though the last drop has moved on. She has not. You can really feel Vi's anguish in that scream in that fight. Vi only wins here because she has a vision of Vander. And while this may seem wholesome, this scene, for me, strongly points to how Vi still uses the past as a crutch. As glittering as this old memory is, Vi still carries this unhealthy concept of responsibility. At the tea party, Vi snaps right back into trying to get Powder back. She's lost everything and she's so desperate to have her sister back, to have a semblance of this innocence back in her life. When Jinx admits that Jinx was created due to Vi's abandonment of her, Vi doesn't even seem that surprised. And it's because Vi, I think, has often thought about this. Vi, when Jinx tries to force her to choose between killing Caitlyn or losing Powder, can't sacrifice Caitlyn just to bring Powder back. I also want to note the bunny on the table in the tea party scene, because Powder kept this symbol of innocence locked away in a little lock box, as we see in an earlier scene. Powder's innocence was something that could only exist with Vi. Without her, it became corrupted. She keeps that bunny, I think, as a reminder of both her sister, but also of a time without the regret and guilt of what happened to her family. Vi, on the other hand, is a child forced to grow up under horrific circumstances, whose innocence was denied her long ago, whose innocence she gave to her sister that could never grow up. Jinx tries to pose Powder to Vi like a return to the past, hence the bunny. Jinx is the threat of the future opposed to the promise. Caitlyn. Vi is in a very difficult spot, of course, because she doesn't want to hurt Caitlyn, she doesn't want to hurt Powder. She tries to use the past to bring her sister back to her, telling her to remember Clagor and Milo and Vander. To Vi, these are memories that sustained her in her darkest hour. But to Powder, those memories are monsters. Vi doesn't understand this. Silco does. It's why Silco is ready to kill Vi to stop the suffering that she's putting Jinx through, though Powder kills him before he can. I think any and all hope of Powder returning dies the moment that Vi denies the important reality of Powder's life, in trying to minimize that she just killed the one person who loved her despite her failings. The one person who thought she was perfect no matter what. Vi telling Powder that everything's okay when things are not in fact okay just shows how far gone Vi even is in that moment. Jinx is not wrong when she says they both changed. Vi could not protect Powder anymore, especially considering Powder's monsters came from within. And the innocence of those bygone days that Vi held so dear could never come back. They became blue wisps of smoke, streaking across the night sky expelling their last breath as they shattered all hope. And unfortunately, from what we can see of Season 2 so far, it seems that Vi will be doing the very last thing that Vander would have ever wanted her to do. Instead of protecting what she loves, Vi will be fighting to destroy what she hates. But of course, we won't know any more until Season 2. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I loved Vi in Season 1. She is one of my favorite characters. She's just very complex, and you can really empathize with her. I will say, though, my favorite character is Savika, and I'm looking forward to digging into her character and seeing more of her in Season 2. Let me know what your thoughts are on Vi and Arcane Season 1, and where you think things are gonna go for her in Season 2. Of course, a huge thank you to my members who are scrolling up the screen right now. Yes, because now we have 31 members, which is crazy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching Shaped by Stories, and I will see you again in the next one. Goodbye!